The Norwegian Method.
I'm KB Kristian Blumfeldt, Olympic and 3-time world champion.
I'm Dr. David Lippman, a health and human performance specialist, and welcome to the Norwegian Method podcast.
The Norwegian Method.
Welcome back to the Norwegian Method podcast. Joining me today, hot off the podium, KB. How are you, mate?
Thank you. Yeah, a little bit mixed feelings, I guess. Finishing second to Jelle, lost the sprint finish. But now just feeling like thinking, after a race like that, you just reflect and thinking, what if I went for the wrong strategy, if I should have gone earlier, if that would have made any difference. So feeling a little bit mixed. In one way, it's good to have the season wrapped up, winning the Ironman Pro Series, $200,000 there. But again, mixed feelings because I did win the Ironman World Championship in Nice, and I did not win the 70.3 World Championship. So in one way, we are sort of racing for titles, and I'm sort of ready to have a short sort of break before really building up to an early season next year and really targeting the World Championship. So I'm motivated, but done with the Ironman Pro Series races for the year.
Yeah, and we've got a podcast coming up very shortly with yourself and Gustav talking about sort of reviewing the year. So we won't go too much into like full year review and full plans for next year. But I guess a couple of questions I had off the back of today, having watched it. You were pretty vocal on the bike today compared to at least what's normal, and the commentators took note of it. What was going on? At least on the first climb, I saw you. Was it with an official you were talking to, telling him to get out of the way or something?
Oh, no. So that was like the fact that the two guys in front, they were like riding on the very left side of the course. So just to be
Okay,
sneaking behind the motorbikes, and I was just screaming it to them to get them to the right side, because you're supposed to
gotcha.
be on the sort of right side of the course or off the road.
Yep.
So it was more trying to get the referee to step.
And did you notice, like, particularly? I mean, so I don't know if you know that Jelle had a crash, but did you notice him at least at the top of the first climb? Because he was off his bike fixing his derailleur or something like this. Did you notice he was having bike issues, or you had no idea?
Yep. So maybe I can go through the race, do like a
Yeah, yeah,
race recap first, and because I had like an average swim or average bad swim. I was actually even behind Magnus Ditlev. I could see his swim cap maybe 10 seconds in front. So I really was stressing a little bit if I came out of the swim behind him, if he would then be pushing the pace early and I would sort of lose that front group and sort of the connection there. But I managed to have like a okay quick T1, so I was actually just behind him out of transition, and I was passing him like early on the bike. And in that first roundabout, I also saw Jelle, and as well when I was grabbing my bike, I saw that the two sort of the bikes next to me and Jelle's bike wasn't there. So then I knew that he would be up front on the course. So I realized early that he crashed. But then he also, maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, he was then overtaking me again on the bike. So then it seems like he was fine, as well as sort of having good legs, because I guess he would be more reserved if he was feeling like that the crash would impact him. But then, as we were entering the first big climb, I was then planned to go quite hard in the first hill, and I was then sort of early in that sort of front trio with Jonas and Jaime Riddle, and then we had a small gap back. But then Jelle was bridging up, and as we sort of did that first, after the 10 minutes climb, he was then stopping. So he's just stopped in front of me, and I saw he was like trying to bend
gotcha.
the rear derailleur. So I sort of realized that he had some mechanical, but then in the next hill again, he sort of came by again. So then I thought that it was like, of course, it's costing energy to do those surges, but he seems like he was quite strong then as well, because if not, he would again been more reserved. So I thought that he was riding quite strong, and on top of that, like in my mind, he was the main competitors in terms of like the run speed. So early on the race, I realized that both Casper and Jelle was sort of in that group of nine, and those two were the main guys I was a little bit worried about in terms of uh, yeah, in terms of the title.
And talk me through the rest of the bikes. You had a concerted effort on the way up. Then there was, I guess, a bit of downhill, a bit of rolling. Then you had a bit of a climb coming out of the turnaround. How are you feeling through that portion there? I saw you were sort of moving up to like relatively close to the front there, and there was a couple of little weird splits that were happening from time to time.
Yeah, so the course is looking a little bit in mix of like Nice and St. George, because the first climb was basically like a 10 minutes straight climb, and then it's like a 5 minute flat section, and then it's a 10-minute climb again. And then after that, it's more like a highway-ish of a road with like rolling hills. And there the dynamic where like it was quite easy to be sort of even free spinning if you were like eighth and ninth position in the group. While maybe Magnus, and who was in the front of the group then, was maybe pushing normal power. So then you're sort of having quite a high speed, and if you're then at 15 or 20 meter gap as you're then entering a hill, then you suddenly have to be on your brake again, and then pedal again, because that's where they are normally surging. So it's more like not wasting too much energy by braking. So maybe you're like letting the gap open up a little bit before a hill, and then just keeping this momentum up as far into the climb as possible. But then if you're miscalculating that, suddenly the gap is too big. So it was like maybe a few occasions where the group got split a little bit. But again, if there is like a steep enough hill, then the people will just sort of surge around and try to bridge up again to make sure that they were in that front group for the final downhill.
The Norwegian method.
8sleep just launched the latest product, the Pod 5, a smart mattress cover that you place right on top of your existing mattress. The pod uses precision temperature control to regulate your body's sleep cycle, and you can do this separately for each side of the bed. This means that you and your partner can have your ideal sleep temperature. The pod has been clinically proven to increase quality sleep by up to 1 hour each night. That's a massive boost to your recovery time, which can translate to better physical performance, improve cognitive function, and enhance overall health.
And from now until December 1st, 8 Sleep has their biggest ever sale. You can now get $700 off your Pod Ultra 5 when you go to 8sleep.com/Kristian and use the promo code Kristian at checkout.
The Norwegian method.
Yeah. And how was that final downhill, mate? You looked like you were going quite hard down it and doing quite well there.
Yeah, like it was not technical at all. So it was quite wide roads and high speed. So it was like a good opportunity to rest. So, but again, that's the same for everyone. So I guess both me and Casper and Jelle and Jonas were all sort of saving a little bit energy on that downhill, and just trying to be sort of in an okay position coming into T2. And I think I came like third off the bike and had like a decent transition. Decided to not put on socks for the half. So got, I think I was like second out of transition, with Rigo Borgen just in front of me, Jonas just behind, and had like maybe 15 or 20 seconds even gap to Jelle. So then I thought that I'm not gonna surge now, but I'm gonna make it like go out in a steady enough pace that he has to sort of pay for the seconds he's catching up again. So I didn't go out too hard, but maybe looking back, maybe I should have gone harder there to make it harder for him to bridge up. Um, but then he came up after like maybe 3 or 4K, and as we were going into that first sort of hill of the course, then he was making the move and really trying to open up the gap, and that's where me and Jelle got the separation to Jonas and Jamie Riddle, and from there on, it was sort of a race between me and him, I felt like. But he obviously wanted me to do as much work as possible, while I was in my mind at that point just thinking about the final 1.5K. Uh, So it was like a few occasions where he tried to break away in the hills, but then I felt that the pace he was doing in the downhill wasn't too like I was sort of be able to sort of rest and sort of get into a comfortable rhythm again in the downhills. So at some point, I obviously knew that he was trying to surge in the hills, but then I was working hard myself. But then I felt that that the running didn't take too much out of my legs until I started my sprint finish with 1.5K to go. But I wasn't really sure what I had in my legs. I was obviously hoping for having a little bit more because I wasn't able to open up any gap to him for the first maybe 1K of the surge. And then with maybe 500 meters to go, he was then going to the front again. And then we had sort of a battle to take the inside line coming into a sort of the last 180 degrees. And yeah, maybe my mistake. I should again have tried to do some damage earlier in the race. And yeah, I guess I'm feeling a bit stupid now looking back that I just trusted my last K and a half without having done too much leg speed in the training for last month. So maybe I'm a bit ignorant from my side. So that's something to learn from for next season.
Well, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself, mate. Everyone in the commentary box was agreeing with your tactics. Everyone thought, if KB's there, he's going to go, and it's going to be hard. So, I think maybe everybody but Jelle agreed with what you did, mate. And Jelle was probably, afterwards it's easy. Revisionist history is easy.
I think maybe I was thinking too much about how I was kicking him in Yokohama in 2021. Because then we had the same sort of battle in the World Series back then, 4 years ago, and I was able to open up a gap maybe after 400 or 500 meters of sort of yeah, ramping up the pace. But then I guess I was also coming into that race with more leg speed versus this race. I came in with more focus on a little bit more longer threshold sessions. So like the last threshold session I did in Sierra Nevada, as an example, was just like a 2x2K and 6K and a 5K at where I did the last 5K at like 3:07 pace. So not any like super fast work, but more like a little bit more volume than what I did earlier in the season. So yeah, we live, laugh, and learn.
And cry, right?
And cry.
That's what
And
that's what I
cry.
heard from you guys during the broadcast. But so on that, my observation today was that this race particularly looked a lot more like a WTCS race than it did Kona or Nice or anything like that. Like there were huge groups for ages on the bike, and then everyone came off and was trying to run each other's legs off. It feels and sort of certainly Olav said something similar to me was that like the and the short course transition from these guys seems to support it as well as like these races feel more close to an Olympic distance than they do an Ironman. Is that fair to say from an experience point of view?
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's no holding back really, and I guess the mix of a lot of different things. Maybe also the fact that as a short distance guy, you're maybe struggling a little bit more financially with making a living out of the sport. So it seems like, and there's a combination of then the Ironman Pro Series and what Ironman is now doing for the athletes and the pros is actually like bringing more money on the table. So it's bringing more athletes moving over earlier, and that's just increasing the density in the field as well as it's a pro series race. So there is like 40 guys who is at a really high level, and basically all 40 of them, or of all 40 of us, would be like in fitness to win a normal 70.3 race. So the level is really, really high, and people are coming in really well prepared, and that also makes it more challenging. Like you just sort of have to go with the field, or like it's no just like typically like you having your race pace power and you stay to that one. Like now you have to play with dynamics of the race and maybe ride above threshold at some point of the race. Like I guess today in the climb I was 5 beats above my threshold, like up at 165 beats. So if I should just give myself like an Ironman 70.3 race pace power, I wouldn't be riding that hard in the hills. But I just have to do it in order to be a part of that group dynamic when we get up over the top and being able to sort of rest in that group in the downhill.
The Norwegian method.
We have been using Plasmade for the last 18 months, and what I love the most is how it helped me get ready for the hardest sessions. A hard session is tough in itself, but with Plasmade it just gives me that little bit extra that helps me perform every single time. We use Plasmade approximately 40 minutes before training and sometimes before flights. After using Plasmade, I feel like the oxygen is just more available in my muscles. I felt like every single breath is utilized more. Alongside their orange, strawberry and watermelon flavors, Plasmade have launched a new delicious pineapple citrus flavor. Visit plasmade.co.uk and use the code NM15 for 15% off your order.
The Norwegian method.
Yeah, for sure. You pushed. It looked like you pushed quite hard late on the bike. Maybe the last mile, that flat bit, or coming into T2. Was that a just concerted effort, or was it just you were sick of sitting behind people and didn't want to get penalties and things like that?
No, it was more like we were 9 guys, and I thought I felt a little bit rude when I went to the front end because I hadn't been in the front at all at any point of the bike. But then I sort of tried to just position myself into a good position for second transition because that just there is maybe 5 or 10 seconds difference if you're early off the bike versus late.
And so you were making a concerted effort to get out in that run with a bit of a gap by the sounds of things, given the T2 and that, because I think you had the quickest T2, or certainly quicker than anybody that went through with you in that front group.
Yep, that's also the difference without not having socks on. So it was important to get like a quick transition and at least not lose anything. And then just starting to run that is or like comfortably as possible.
Yeah.
And I felt as well like the bike didn't take too much out of my legs compared to what I was expecting, because I feel at some point the power was really high. Like even though it was like the flat section on the return for I think it was like for 35 or 40 minutes, I did like 360 watts or something in that group. So I feel we were still doing some decent work on that bike, even though it wasn't pure hills.
And how worried were you about people behind you versus just Jelle? But I guess at what point did you stop worrying about Jonas and Casper?
Oh, that was on the run, maybe around halfway into the run.
Okay.
I did sort of expect Jonas to, when he got dropped, to not be able to come back again. But I wasn't really sure about Casper. But again, we had like 30 or 40 seconds on him. And as I was then in my head, like planning to go quite hard for last K or so, then I felt that if he would be able to bridge up, I should then be strong enough to break away again, because then it often takes a lot of energy to bridge up to someone with like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that makes sense. Completely understand. And did you hear? Oh, sorry. What was going on? What were you saying to Jelle? Because there was certainly a moment where Jelle tried to get you to go to the front. Only one that we saw on camera. But what was being said? Did you just tell him it's not
Oh,
happening, or
he tried to make me like really go to the front twice, and I told him that I'm waiting for Casper. I want to have a sprint finish with him. Obviously, I didn't want to sprint with Casper. I wanted him to do the work, but that was my excuse, and he told me that's a bad excuse.
This is getting more and more like pro cycling every day. I love it. More and more like pro cycling. I got a teammate back there. I can't go. I can't do a pull because I got a teammate back there.
But yeah, I guess in the end he's the one who can laugh now because he took the sprint finish. But then at the press conference he said that he needs Martin up racing again, because then he can use the same excuse. Martin Van Riel, the Belgian guy. So maybe in the future there'll be like team tactics out on the course. Maybe in Nice or in Kona next year.
I did take note. There was like Northern Europeans were the first 7 or 8, because there was you, Jelle, Casper, a couple, Jonas. It's a bunch of. I think the first
Rico
non-Northern
Bogen.
European was Jamie Riddle. Yeah, I think Jamie Riddle. Yeah, I think Jamie Riddle in 7th was the first non-Northern European. So there is certainly a bit of a European rivalry floating around in there, and so yeah, it's cool to watch. Cool to watch. Were you surprised by? I know talking to you and Gustav pre-race, you talked about Jonas and Jaime pushing hard, sort of swim into the early bike. Were you surprised they're both biked and were sort of right at the front on the run to start with, or is that what you were expecting?
Yeah, I would say so. That's maybe the two athletes that I've been most surprised of this season is both how Jonas and Jamie have been performing, or especially on the bike. Like the fact that both of them can be pushing the pace so hard, like they did in Nice, and then finishing off well. Is yeah, I didn't think they would have it in them after having raced with them in short distance. So yeah, massive kudos to both of them, and especially Jamie, who's maybe a few years younger even than Jonas. Yeah, they are sort of my experience with them is like they are super quick in the water, like typically built for Super League or Super Tri distance, and then they are able to transform it into Ironman distance. And Jamie even have been racing quite a bit as well, like he did Barcelona, I think like 2 weeks ago, where he won. So yeah, like I've been quite surprised over what he have been able to achieve. And
Yeah.
it's not a surprise that the top guys is from Europe, or like as you said, like top seven or so, because you can because that's where like ITU and World Triathlon is standing strongest. Like that's where there is the most athletes performing with the French Grand Prix series, with Bundesliga, and sort of I feel like the history almost in the sport. So when they are coming through from short distance and up to half distance, then the pool of athletes is much larger. And I feel that often the athletes who's coming from short distance is maybe more professional in one way in terms of how they're approaching the training. So I wouldn't say it's a surprise.
Yeah, okay. That's a great insight. I didn't have that context. That's really cool. And so towards the end of the run, last turnaround, the last big turnaround of that roundabout, Casper was yelling out to you. Did you hear him? Did you know, like, did you take note of that, or was it just something that we all noticed?
No, I saw him. I couldn't hear what he said, but because again, like sport in Spain is like they know how to put on great events, and the spectators turning out with a good crowd, so the people around him were screaming too. But I felt the energy from him. You know, when you have sort of a guy running for third, still taking the time to sort of almost slow down and scream at you and cheer you on. That's giving energy, and it's sort of make or I did realize that this was like the moment to go, but it's even like going more into the instinct that okay, I have to really put the pressure on now and create something. And he even did it twice, both in that first turning point when I started to push, but also after we went up on the bridge down again, because there was also like another dead turn. So it's helping to get the energy from your teammates.
The Norwegian method.
Morton's hydrogel technology encapsulates carbohydrates, making their gels and drink mix easy to consume and easy on the stomach. With no added colors, flavors, or preservatives, you get exactly what you need and nothing you don't. It's the fuel we rely on both trading and to execute on the race day. To get 20% off your next purchase on morton.com, simply enter the code TNMS2 at checkout. The code is applicable once per customer on all products except the Morton Bicarb system. Valid until December 31st, 2025.
The Norwegian method.
Yeah, that's really cool. And how are the boys? Obviously, like Casper looked absolutely cooked after the race. Like I saw his interview and he looked absolutely shot. And obviously Gustav had a tough day. Are they okay, or how are they feeling?
I think Gustav is quite disappointed. He thought that he had the Ironman Pro Series third place quite secured, and ending up losing that third place and then ending up on fifth in the end. So I think he felt, yeah, that he sort of failed that. But it's like a mix for him because he's very happy to be able to come back with the performance he had in Nice, and I feel that it's almost like the air has gone out of him a little bit in the, like the balloon, you know, like motivation wise, he's more ready to just take off season and build up for next year. So he's been struggling more than me and Casper in terms of coming back into training and back into that rhythm. And for Casper, I think, is just stoked to be Ironman world champion and yeah, getting another good result. So
Yeah.
because in the end, like it's both of the races is like a world championship title, but it's one that's meaning more than the other. And I think Casper is just happy he took this.
Yeah, no, completely understand that. So in commentary, Sam Laidlaw was making jokes about you running past your yacht. What are you going to do with this Pro Series money, mate? Is that going towards the Tesla, or is there something else that you're going to spend it on?
It's going straight into the Tesla, but first I bought it on like a 0% interest mortgage for 3 years. So I'm just going to let that run, and then I will put this prize money into like an index fund. So in that future, I've actually made money on having 0% interest on the Tesla. So yeah, got to invest in the future, you know, for the days after my career.
I love that people have come to the podcast for triathlon and they're getting frequent flyer and investment advice. So that's what makes you the people's champ, mate. That's for sure. But on a more serious note, you've mentioned a couple of things already that you've run over in your head in terms of tactical things that you could have changed. Is it easier or harder when you've found nothing?
Maybe it's one thing as well I can bring up is that
Yeah.
I was maybe a bit too late to so I spoke to Sync because I realized that they had like a 62-48 two by system that I could put on for the downhills here, and I was asking them a bit too late, and they were trying to get it sorted out to send to Marbella to arrive like 2 days ago, but unfortunately it didn't arrive. So then I was like thinking at the breakfast yesterday that okay, I'm doing it. I'm putting on a 1x60 instead. So I was yesterday. I changed my mind and changed the system on the bike to be a 1x60 with a 64 in the rear. After having gone through my data in the course where I did like sort of 400 watts in the hill, and looking at what was my speed at the slowest moment of the course, and I asked ChatGPT what this would be equal to in cadence if I had a 34 on the smallest or the biggest cassette behind and a 62 ring, and it told me like that should be fine. That should be like 65 or something. And I thought, okay, let's go. That's good. So then that's something I can survive with. So I changed my setup yesterday.
There were certainly lots of comments. I was going to ask you whether you're running a 60 or a 62 because there's lots of debate from the commentators about what you were running in the. So that's the answer that we were looking for there. And how did you think you felt with that? Was it okay, or did you think it was a mistake?
I think it was okay. Like it would be harder to do a 58 in the front with the downhills and to be like because then you sometimes have to just like do a very high cadence and then you can sort of rest rather than having a high cadence at all time. So it gave me like a little bit more flexibility after the first 25 minutes of work, and the cadence wasn't too bad. It was maybe 2 or 3 times I was like trying to shift one more time, and then I saw down on the cassette that no, this is what I have. But other than that, I was sort of in a comfortable
Yeah.
gear.
Yeah, but so we talked about some of the tactical stuff before, and is it easier or harder for you when you think you haven't made a tactical mistake, right? Because when you've made a tactical mistake, you go, "Yeah, it's annoying, but at least I have a way I could win and I could do it better." Or the other way is, "I did everything right and I still didn't win." Like, which one of those is harder for you?
I don't know. Like if I feel I did mistakes, it's easy to redo it again or next time. But then again, it's like it's something about doing it in the World Championships, and I feel like it's 3 years since I won the last time I won a title. So I feel like it was really on time. But like in Kona last year, I didn't feel I was just doing poor tactical decisions. Decisions. I also think I was in a poor shape. So then it's like more to do. But now I can both work with my tactic and my shape for next year. So that's something I've been feeling for the last month, maybe that I'm sort of looking forward to just wrap up the season and then do some changes that I want to do with the training and the positions and stuff like that. So I actually also put up the saddle like a half a centimeter yesterday because I thought, okay, I'm going to sit more on the edge of the saddle for the whole ride. So that was also a change I did yesterday, and it worked fine with my knees and my calf muscles.
Yeah, and no cramp, which is the big thing that everyone's concerned about. So when do you head home, mate? Are you heading back home, or what are you doing? What's plans from here?
So now I'm heading home on Tuesday and having some easier days, and then it's not going to be like a proper off season like I had last year, because last year I really felt like the need to do like 5 weeks of basically nothing. But now I'm quite motivated to get straight back into it, and also having a trip to Cartagena in Colombia in 3 weeks' time to take part of the 70.3 race there, which is
Very
something I'm
cool.
looking forward to. And yeah, like I wanted to explore a little bit more South America, because like when we're traveling around, like even here in Marbella, it's so many people from South America, from Colombia, from Mexico and Brazil, and I think it's fun to visit those countries and use the time, like now the window in the off season, to do some fundraising there. So having 4 or 5 days in Colombia, and then back again home to Bergen for some winter training. And yeah, the plan for the winter is to be quite fit quite early, but I guess that's for maybe for the next podcast episode.
Yeah. We'll definitely touch on that. Are you going solo to Colombia, or are the boys joining you?
No, it's only gonna be myself. So that's gonna be a solo trip. Maybe next year. I tried to convince them to join me, but for now it's just me.
One question on the off season. The most of the questions are going to come next time, but like, how much track work are you going to do on your spikes? I want to see those calves touching that bar, mate, on the bike.
Touching the bottle. I guess the thing is, I'm not sure if they will get any larger, because I feel I can do all of my sessions on the track in spikes. So like in the summer, I
Yeah,
was
well,
running maybe 26, 27 Ks with spikes on the track. But I guess that the work I'm doing on the track will be with spikes.
you live right near the track, so there'll be no shortage of track work, particularly in winter, I'm sure, in Bergen, because not a lot of other stuff getting plowed. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense there, mate. Thank you very much for spending some time with us post your big day today. It's still probably 3 hours to be able to get dinner in Spain, but that's okay. Enjoy the dinner tonight. Enjoy some couple days there, a bit more relaxing, and we will talk to you soon on another podcast, as I said, with Gustav, reviewing the year. So if there are questions that come in, or questions people have about the year, please do send them in to us. We'll try to grab those and maybe ask them to you. But that's it for another episode of the Norwegian Method podcast. Thank you for joining us, KB. And
Thank you so much.
for those who are listening, please do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. Rate the podcast, of course, if you have not, and share this to help us grow some more. That'd be really helpful.
The Norwegian Method.